Welcome to another episode of the Super Parent Syndrome, and I am your host, Dr. Nick Fanning, and I just want to do a special episode. It is called You Can't Change Them. All right, sit back, relax, let's get started.
Parenting in the 21st century is ever evolving, and while you balance work, kids, and your sanity, it's easy to feel discouraged. Welcome to the Super Parent Syndrome with your host, Dr. Nick Fanning.
Day after day, literally day after day, I have a client come to me and just say like, oh, I need you to talk to my husband, or I need you to talk to my wife. I just am done with it. I'm in love, but I'm not, or I love them, but I'm not in love with them, or they just drive me crazy with X, Y, Z. These are these things that I just wish they would just be the man, or I wish they would just step up. And you know what? I hear you. I hear those frustrations. I can literally feel your pain. And you know what? You're not alone. And it's just time after time. And the stubborn thing is, like I feel you. I know that things are tough and you just wish that your spouse would just like respond to all the hard work you're doing. And it is entirely and completely heartbreaking and frustrating. But you have to understand the truth behind the next statement. You can't change them. In fact, it's incredibly hard for you to change, let alone them. And so it comes down to this, is that you can only change yourself. You can only cause yourself to level up, so to speak, or to improve things. And the best case scenario is by doing that, you will then give them permission to do the same. But until then, I'm sorry, you can't change them. There's literally nothing you can do. So here's an example of this, is that we hear it a whole lot in the coaching industry, especially, we talk about like production, bringing home money, or stepping up in parenting, or even just in the dating game of your spouse. And it comes down to the fact is like, I just wish I could get my husband to listen to your podcast, or I just wish I could get my husband to do notes for my kids, or to pick up around the house, or do these things. And the problem is that, I have to ask them. I was like, well, do you ask them to do that? And most 90% of the time, it's more of an answer of like, well, no. Oh man, I hate that statement. Well, no. Folks, I got to tell you, as a husband, there's just one obvious thing that I have to tell all of you, is that you just got to be purposely plain and obvious of what you want. In fact, if you have questions or wonderings about what the other person wants or desires, you literally just have to come up with a list of those things, prep them, and then just start asking away. You have to create a safe place in order to talk like that. You have to come up with an air or an environment where they're going to respond to that and be able to feel free to give you those answers without fear of judgment. And then at that time, then a real discussion can take place. It could be sex. It could be sex frequency. It could be parenting techniques. It could be the fact that he might believe in spanking and you don't, or vice versa. It might be the fact that, you strict to an absolute, this is bedtime and this is our routine and it has to be set. And they might totally think it's totally different. It has to be more fluid, or the kids can do it themselves, or whatever it might be. But here's the thing, unless you're talking about it, unless you're actually sitting down and hashing it out, these things aren't just going to take care of themselves by happenstance. And if they do, it's because one partner probably doesn't even care, or is so apathetic that they're not stepping up and saying what they would truly believe, and they're just letting you get by with it. That's the sad part. That's the scary part. And when the apathy sets in, that's worse than fighting. That's worse than arguing. I had to tell my wife, like literally we were talking about, she's like, man, I'm just sick of all the arguing. And here's the thing, I'm purposely arguing with her. I'm creating clarity. I'm trying to figure out what we want and what our goals are and what we're trying to do. And so sometimes that does create some chaos. But here's the thing. I told her, I was like, I love the fact that we're arguing. And we're doing so. We're not raising our voices. We're not screaming at each other. We're not throwing things. We're not hitting. We're not doing any of those things. Especially when you see our 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds do those things. But here's the thing. I do have to say this, is like, you don't have to worry about when I'm arguing. It's when I stop arguing, or I just roll over, or I'm just have such apathy for things, or I just really don't even care. That's when you have to worry. Until then, hey, game on. Let's get some of this stuff taken care of. And here's the thing. You have that ability too. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you have to go through the complexity. You have to go through complexity to get to the far side where there's simplicity. And to do that requires a collision between you. It requires a collision even between you and your boss or your kids. And on the other side, there is simplicity, but that's because you guys created clarity. You know where each other stand. You know each other's opinions. You know each other's hot buttons, and you know where the other person stands on it. And then you come up with a plan. Because if we don't come up with a plan, we're just left with a wandering generality. And then nothing will get accomplished. And everything will be left up to chance, and everything will be left up to mediocrity and doing the bare minimum. Well, I can tell you this, not in my family, not in my circle of influence. I don't want that around me. I want clarity. And to have that requires a battle, requires those tiny little wars or those arguments or those discussions, whatever you want to say. But get it done. You can't change them, but you can change yourself. And you can ask the right questions to open up those channels for change. But I can tell you this, if you lead by example and you're changing, you'll give them power to do so the same. Just like with my own family. By me changing myself, by working out more, by showing more spirituality, by giving my kids love letters or sending them pictures or even producing more at the office, I give other people permission to do the same. It's not going to happen the other way around. In fact, if it does, I'm borrowing power from the other person. It's not going to last. But if I'm doing it myself and they're borrowing power from me, I can see that. I can encourage that. I can mold that. And all the while letting them to do the work. You're not trying to save them, folks. You can't, but you can help lead them. So here's the thing. It's not easy. It's definitely complicated, but it is simple. And the simple equation is this: consistency. You personally, consistently changing for the better. And that's why I have the 1% Club. So if you're not already signed up, I have a newsletter that goes out every single day. It's directed right to your inbox. There's a daily challenge where the goal is to get 1% better every single day. And you spend 10 minutes or less doing that. What an investment, right? It's a no-brainer, and it's free. Go to Pep Talks for Parents to sign up. Otherwise, just keep listening, keep doing what you're doing, but then have those crucial conversations. Until our next episode, thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Super Parent Syndrome. Please be sure to visit peptalksforparents.com for more content and our free newsletter. And remember, you are not alone.